Hello and welcome to the Creating Healthy Wealth and Motherhood podcast with me, your host, PT Morgan of leveragedmama.com. Hey, and welcome to episode 7. In today's episode, I'll be addressing a listener question. This question was sent in by Rochelle, and she asks, I've been wondering about what families need to or should be doing in terms of costs of living and growing wealth for the future. Specifically, I've been worried about how the rich-poor divide is getting bigger, and for myself and my husband who are upper middle class earners with ageing parents and young children, how are we meant to stay ahead of rising costs and build our wealth for the future? We own our modest 50-year-old house in Johnsonville, and I've started a Sharesies account for both myself and our kids. My husband and I have KiwiSaver, all sorts of personal insurances, and in terms of debt, aside from the mortgage, we have a minuscule amount of credit card debt. We're on track to continue building our wealth, but I'm concerned that if we loosen the purse strings to add a bit more fun, we'll end up in a negative position. Do you have any advice or insights for protecting and building future wealth? That is such an awesome question. Thank you, Rochelle, for sending it in. Firstly, a disclaimer. I am not in any way qualified to give financial advice. What you hear from me and what you read from me are my opinions only. If you need financial advice, you should definitely talk to a qualified financial advisor. And neither am I an official source of information on the coronavirus. You can get a hint of what's coming in this episode from that. These are my interpretations only. If you need more info, go to your government's health department or the WHO website, which will have current advice for you. So, when Rochelle wrote this question in, it was pre-coronavirus blowing up. Unless you've been blissfully hanging out under a rock, you will know that this event, now classified as a pandemic, and aside from how it's affecting our health, it's directly affecting our wealth and perhaps our perceived or planned futures. Our investments have taken a really steep dive, like the value of our KiwiSaver nest eggs. As an aside, if you're interested in what I have been doing about this, well, I have looked once at my Sharesies account, once. And then I increased my weekly auto-invest amount and back-paddled out of there as fast as I could. I haven't looked at my Simplicity account. I'm in the growth fund, which is more sensitive to the market fluctuations up and down. I may have lost a few thousand in there, but I'm not looking. It's just not worth it. I'm not changing my track there because I'm not intending on using that fund until, 20 plus years. So it's okay. It's fine. It's going to ride it out. But anyway, today is Monday, the 16th of March in 2020, and what we're talking about worldwide is flattening the curve, which means doing our best to slow down the spread of this virus, this coronavirus, in our communities so that we don't overwhelm our hospitals and health workers. This ultimately means at least deaths because the critically ill will get the treatment that they need. What this means practically is social distancing, and you've probably heard this term a number of times in the last few days. This is where taking care of our health starts to affect our wealth, whichever way this plays out. So we in New Zealand, we're at the higher end, I guess, of taking precautionary measures. Our Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, announced that cruise ships can no longer stop over in any of our ports. And as of 1 a.m. tonight, I think it is, tomorrow morning, all travellers from overseas who arrive in New Zealand will need to self-isolate for 14 days. So that's part of the social distancing plan. And what that does is take that person out of circulation and at risk of circulating that virus, which they may or may not have. That means they can't go to the office, they can't go to the gym, to cafes, restaurants, to shops, the beautician, the hairdresser. In fact, anyone with cold or flu symptoms is the same. because you will become a social pariah if you cough in a public place right now. Honestly, I was at Maranui a couple of days ago and was stared at vehemently for clearing my throat. And I'm like, I have asthma. It was really, really obvious. So people are on high alert. But you can see, though, really easily there's a trail of economic destruction. Businesses that require patronage, people actually turning up to use their services and buy their products. What happens to them if we have to shut down nationwide? What could potentially happen? What happens to the employees of these companies? And then what impact does less income, say they lose their jobs or they just don't have any work for a while, how does that impact these people and their families? So back to Rochelle's question, the potentially dystopic future that she was concerned about in that question describes rising costs of living, a bigger divide between the rich and the poor, and higher financial responsibilities as a generation. But this pandemic also shows us how fast our economy can be affected. So her concerns are actually just as relevant to a pandemic or some other kind of event that impacts the global economy. At the heart of it, I think that she's asking, are we doing enough? And is there something more we could or should be doing? So my take on this, we all do the best that we know how with the tools and the knowledge and the experience that we have. We do the best for what we think is right for us, ourselves and our families. So what might this involve? So you probably think about the regular things like savings, having some savings for future, having a KiwiSaver account that you are contributing to. Maybe you've even started a Sharesies account, which in New Zealand provides us with the ability to invest for our children as well, invest in index funds. So maybe you are working hard to pay off your mortgage if you own a home in order to be more financially free when you're older and be able to support your child's education. Maybe you're keeping your debt levels low and spending within your means. There's lots of practical ways that you can create a future that is financially acceptable to you and your family. But also it has a lot to do with your personality and how much risk that you're willing to take. With my family, so I'm taking a big risk venturing out into entrepreneurship while my husband is continuing to work in a stable or relatively stable job. We're balancing our risk out there. We wouldn't both go into entrepreneurship, especially not something as highly, I didn't buy a business, buy a franchise that I knew how I was going to make money. I'm just totally winging it. So with potentially great rewards. So we're okay with taking that risk, right? Rochelle mentioned having loads of different personal insurances, and this is definitely something that can give us, that can help us feel more assured that if something happened to our health, or any number of things could happen, like a pandemic, losing your job, we put insurances in place to protect ourselves. That's a very practical thing to do. So you might you'll definitely have home insurance, you might have contents insurance, car insurance, you might have income protection insurance, health insurance. There's a variety of different insurances that you can have as a precaution to life events happening that threatens your income level. You might also have investments, like we talked about the KiwiSaver, and maybe you've got some index funds, or maybe it's in property, rental property. Those sorts of precautionary measures, those sorts of income generation measures, it's all practical stuff, great. But Rochelle's question was really, we're kind of doing this, but are we doing enough? Is there something more we could be doing? And really, it comes back to that risk profile, your risk profile. What you do, you have to be comfortable with. If you have investments, then, and this is going to become a theme here, then I believe you need to consider the diversity of those investments. Now, what I've learned about diversity of investments, I'll try and sum up here. Let's say you have invested in property. Well, great. Property's doing really well, but one way to diversify your property investments, say you're a rental property investor, would be to buy in different cities or different areas, so that if one area is affected and it affects your rental property in this place, it doesn't necessarily mean it affects your other one. You could, if you invest in shares, index funds, companies, diversify your investments by buying shares in different types of companies, different companies in different countries. There's also the diversity of the riskiness of those investments, so higher risk versus lower risk. Diversify that way. Diversify by, I think you're probably getting the picture here. So diversifying your investments across whatever you're choosing to invest in sounds to me like a really practical thing to do to protect those investments, so that market changes don't hit you all at once and hit all of your investments at once. So you can kind of see right now with this coronavirus pandemic, and as we talked about before, our investments have taken a dive, and I'm not quite sure about the severity of that. As I said, I'm not really looking, but that means that if you had, let's say you threw all of your savings into your KiwiSaver, every last cent, and it was on a high growth fund or a growth fund or high risk fund. Sure, in the good times you would be like making hay. Oh yeah, I'm making dollars. But in times like this, when the market takes a dive, if all of your money is in that one basket, your entire basket is going to drop through the floor, if that makes sense. So diversity of investments, absolutely. Having investments, whether that be savings or a house or whatever, and diversifying those investments is going to help to protect your wealth that you are in possession of and you are trying to grow. So this kind of also makes sense to me, and I'm going to link to a post that I wrote a year or two ago about diversifying your income streams as well. So if we look at diversity of investments, that's protecting the wealth that we have. What about protecting the way that we create wealth? We've got, insurances. But those are like worst case scenario things. Income protection insurance pretty much means that you, like I sat down with an insurance broker and went through all this a few years ago, and you pretty much buggered. If you are in a position to claim for income protection insurance, then something bad has happened, okay? So that's definitely a worst case scenario. So in the way we generate our wealth, take my husband and I's situation again. We have one person working a full-time job. It's a permanent job. He gets health insurance perks. He gets, actually he doesn't get a whole lot now because they changed all that at the end of last year, but I ain't going to go into that. But hey, there's the nature of having a job, right? But we know for sure that he's going to get paid a certain amount every couple of weeks. And that's cool. Pretty much that covers our necessities and our debt repayments and a bit of play money, that sort of thing. And then with my income, I am contracting, so that fluctuates depending on how much I work for my clients. That fluctuates, and then I have my leveraged income from my business, which is a little bit like it's growing slowly, and then it will grow exponentially. So we've got some very different streams of income there. At times like this, my husband's job, it could be at risk, right? If we have a global recession, then yes, we have to understand that jobs would be at risk, business would be at risk, the economy would be at risk, absolutely. So, of course, there's a potential for him to lose his job. With my contracting, sure, yeah, that could definitely dry up. If often what I've seen in government and commercial is that in recessive times, is that even a word? I just made that up. They say no more contractors. That's it, full-time staff only. So then all the contractors leave, and lucky for them, they've been being paid contractor rates, so they've got a good buffer there. In a perfect world, contractors disappear for a bit until the economy starts to feel a bit more stable, then they will come back again. So there's ebbs and flows. And when you have a job, when you're contracting, cool, yep, this is responsive to business needs. What is a business need? They will either be employing or they will not. They'll be either taking measures to grow their company or to protect their company. Remember, I don't have an MBA or anything like that. These are my interpretations, totally. And I have a lot of opinions and interpretations. But anyway, so with my income from leveraged income, the idea is that I am building up different products that I can sell to people, online courses, online programs and coaching programs, that sort of thing. Building up these products, putting the effort into building these products that are going to deliver some kind of value to the people that buy them. But I'll be able to then, market that, sell it, market, sell, put it on, automate the sales of that product, and then it's going to start bringing in leveraged passive income. Would this be affected by the economy? Possibly. I think it depends. If you look at this pandemic and what it is doing to workers, a lot of people are getting sent home. They're in lockdown. The internet is still on. And you actually have a lot of people that are looking for ways to pass their time. So for me, if I wasn't able to create content, which I do every single day, I am learning. I'm learning online. So if anything, there'll be more of a demand for online learning, for consumption of online content than ever. There'll be more people on social media than ever. So while Tani, my husband, might be sent home from his job to work at home, okay, that's cool. He can work remotely. I may get an influx of customers looking for ways to set up businesses like mine, looking for ways to increase their knowledge about online marketing and creating leveraged income streams. There is some diversity in that. I'm doing this funny claw-handed thing. Wow, I really should video these. There is some diversity in the way that we're earning our incomes. So this is how we protect our wealth generation. So that, okay, so we all get sick, right? Tane might have some sick leave. Phew. I'm not sure how much sick leave these companies will be dishing out during a pandemic. It depends on how bad it gets, right? But I might have some income from my products and courses and stuff that I sell, and affiliate income, that sort of thing. That's a way of protecting our wealth generation. So that in doing that, what we do is, okay, cool, something is happening that is out of my control. And that, I'm not just talking about pandemics, I'm talking about parents that need help, parents that need put into a rest home, let's say. Let's say worst case scenario, they have dementia and they really need specialist care and you need to relocate them, that sort of thing, you've got time, money, energy and focus going towards that situation. So you want to be able to step away from your job. You don't want to be both working full time and go, oh my gosh, we have to deal with this situation here. Likewise, if a child gets sick or just any life event comes up, you want to be in a position where you can go, I'm just going to turn the dial down on this income stream right now so that my time and energy and focus can go on over here. So that deals with immediate issues and those that are caused inside our families, outside of our families. Most of it is outside of our control, but what is in our control is how we diversify those income streams. So I bet you're not really surprised that I'm suggesting looking at creating leveraged passive income streams, or at least some sort of passive income stream. And, given the share market at the moment, maybe I'm not suggesting to put more money in shares right now. It might be later. But yeah, so coming back around there, we want to protect the wealth that we have by diversifying these investments, and then protect the way we generate our wealth to diversify by diversifying our income streams. At the heart of creating leveraged income streams, say you're a business or an employee, by creating a leveraged income stream, you're just diversifying your income in whatever way. I mean, you might have a brick and mortar business. Let's say that you make candles, you make beautiful candles and you sell them at markets. You might film a video course of how you make these candles, and then you basically build up your audience over Instagram. Lots of people liking candle making over on Instagram there, I guess. And that's how you start to sell. You've got a product to sell and market, and all you're really doing is going about your daily job, right? I'm a candle maker. I make candles every day. I'm going to promote this by showing you every day. You'll see this all over Instagram, actually. I follow a lot of artists and creators of different kinds. Here I am every single day doing my thing. And hey, if you want to learn how to do the same thing, I made a video course of it. All right, so there is an income stream. You could perhaps reinvest that income into it could go straight back into your investment funds, or maybe you're not even that type of person. You're not a candle maker. You don't have a brick and mortar business. You don't have a creative bone in your body. Maybe you invest in somebody else's side hustle. So maybe it's your partner, if you have one, that's highly creative, that you monetize. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? But I fully intend to monetize my husband. He's a highly creative musical genius. And he's a DJ as well, so I definitely intend to monetize him. Oh my God, he's eventually going to listen to this. And he's going to feel like a piece of meat. Sorry, T. Anyway, but what I'm saying is, hey, look, there's opportunities everywhere. Everyone wants to learn. Times like these, drastic times like pandemics, everyone is looking for something to do, right? And I'm bored. I hope the internet doesn't crash. Please don't crash. Nobody break the internet. And there you are waiting with, I want to share what I can do with you. So back to Rochelle. Do you have any advice or insights for protecting and building future wealth? My answer is diversify everything. I'm just letting you listen to the crickets outside while you think about that. What are you going to diversify? Do you have all of your eggs in one basket in some way? And not just for you personally, but for your family unit? Is there a way that you can start diversifying just little bit by little bit? I'm all about sustainable and small actions, one thing at a time. What can you diversify? What's the biggest risk of, what is it? Is it income, or is it the way you're protecting your wealth or investing it, the way you're generating it, or the way you are protecting it and growing it? what needs potential diversification? It's definitely something that we can all think about, and this is something I started thinking about 3 years ago when I lost my job while I was pregnant. After 5 years of trying to get pregnant, multiple miscarriages, and finally having IVF and staying pregnant, then I was made redundant. So I had enough of the risk at that point of losing my job, and particularly bad with terrible timing. So I decided then that we needed more diversity in our income generation. So ever since then, I have been working on it. I think I should probably end on a high note, okay? So the high note here is that we have the time and the space to think about and reassess our personal situations at any time. It doesn't have to be triggered by terrible things such as the threat of a recession because of a global pandemic. At any time you can stop and think, is this working out for me anymore? Am I comfortable with now? Just like Rochelle asking, is there something more I could be doing? Is there something more I should be doing? And then going out and seeking that information, listening to podcasts, reading books, talking to peers, just growing your knowledge around what is possible so that you can reassess whenever you're feeling a bit questioning about things. So hopefully that is a high note. And hopefully you got something out of this. As always, I'm hoping that you got a little flicker of wisdom and thought, oh, yes, actually, this is, pretty much why I podcast is so that I can get in your ear and sit on your shoulder and get you thinking about things. So I always love to hear if you did have any of those light bulb moments. And Rochelle, I hope I gave you some insights that are useful. And everyone else that are listening, thank you very much and goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've listened and enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review on the podcast. This will help other mamas out there who might need to hear this discover the podcast. If you want to join us in the Facebook group, Creating Healthy Wealth in Motherhood, come on in and have a chat. I'd love to get your feedback, your questions, and to get to know you. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.